Darkest Dungeon 2 has been a significant part of my life. Over the past 2 years, the game has not only consumed my time but sparked my curiosity about its origins and historical influences. In this exploration, I stumbled upon a character that stands as a symbol of suffering and resilience. Baldwin the Leper, a fan favorite with his roots traced back to a real historical figure. And I found this to be the perfect starting point of uncovering the profound philosophical lessons I've learned that this game holds. Leper Baldwin is inspired by the historical figure Baldwin IV, known as the Leper King of Jerusalem. He ascended to the throne at the remarkably young age of 15 and reigned until his untimely death at 24. His life took a tragic turn at a tender age of 9 when he began to display symptoms of leprosy, initially manifesting as the loss of sensation in his right hand. During a period of life typically filled with love and joy, he was faced with the cruel reality of a debilitating, life-ending disease. Leprosy was so stigmatized at the time that those affected were often exiled or segregated from society. So Baldwin IV's care was entrusted to William of Tyre, a renowned historian and educator. Under William's guidance, the young king learned not only wisdom and religion, but also the arts of war and combat. Later on in life, when he was 16, he was propelled into his father's role and was pronounced King of Jerusalem. And for the next 8 years, the young king had fended off the great yet ferocious Saladin, the Jihad, the person who united the Muslims to reclaim the Holy Land. Saladin had accrued an army of tens of thousands to be fended off by the few hundred knights and thousand infantries of Baldwin. What sets Baldwin IV apart is not just his astounding victories against Saladin, but the unusual connection that they had. Despite being mortal adversaries, they shared letters and gifts. Saladin's respect and admiration for Baldwin was a testament to the remarkable character of the Leper King. One can only imagine about the untapped potential and the alternative history that might have unfolded if he had lived longer. In contemplating his life, I've come to realize something profound. It's his intimate knowledge of the brevity of his existence that forced him to be so precise and strategic. The weight of his responsibilities, the pressure to uphold his father's name and to preserve his kingdom, it became his solemn duty. Baldwin's story exemplifies the extraordinary capacity of the human spirit to rise to the occasion even when faced with life's harshest challenges. In the crucible of life's most challenging moments, a remarkable transformation occurs within us. The depths of adversity often triggers a surge in self-reflection and also self-consciousness. This phenomenon can be attributed to something called neural plasticity, a phenomenon that underscores the astonishing adaptability of our brains. Neuroplasticity, in simple terms, refers to the brain's ability to undergo substantial transformations in response to challenges and new experiences. Our neural connections actually reconfigure themselves, literally rewiring our previous established neural connections to understand and combat challenges. The malleability becomes particularly pronounced during times of hardship, again, when self-reflection and self-consciousness are at their peak. In Baldwin's story of conflict with Saladin, we are reminded that during adversity, it has the remarkable power not only to mold individuals, but to shape the course of entire civilizations. Baldwin's saga is a poignant reminder that the human spirit, when pitted even against the harshest odds, can still rise to unprecedented heights, transcending the limits of mere mortality. The story reminds us that the difficulties we face in life should not serve as a source of criticism towards the comparison of suffering. Instead, it's the challenges themselves that should become stories to share, imparting the wisdom that we've gathered during our own unique times of hardship. It's fascinating how, in the abundance of resources of first world nations, we often find ourselves emulating inklings of our ancestors' hardships and greatness. Whether we choose to enlist in the army, immerse ourselves in the gym rat culture, start a family, or simply continuing the traditions of our ancestors, we all inherently seek some sort of purpose in life. And the story of Baldwin's heroic defense of his homeland reminds us that we are all humans. We're at the mercy of the universe of disease, nature, and illness. Simultaneously, we should still recognize the capacity that we have to challenge norms and bring about change. Throughout history, human existence has been marked by various forms of conflict. Whether on the global stage with countries and political ideologies, or in the intimate spheres of friendships, work, and self-discovery, it is within the crucible of conflict and hardships where we as a species demonstrate our intelligence and harness the remarkable neuroplasticity of our brains to learn and adapt. Unlike many other animals that require generations to adapt to new environments, humans span the globe, relying on the ingenuity to create inventions, overcome nature, and sometimes even each other. Darkest Dungeon 2 and Baldwin's story are reminders that change or breaking the mold is both inevitable and often beneficial. In our quest to understand the world and universe and ourselves, we continually experiment with different forms of governance, philosophies, morals, religious beliefs, and scientific theories. We often believe our current knowledge to be the absolute truth, only to have it dismantled by new discoveries or an innovative thinker within a year or less. The dynamic nature of knowledge forces us to reevaluate our understanding continually throughout our lives. One remarkable story that exemplifies this phenomenon is that of a religious man who initially rejected the ideas of the ancient dinosaur bones. Unable to reconcile this discovery with his religious beliefs, he concluded that God has placed these bones as a test of faith. This is oftentimes referred to as the paleontologist's dilemma. However, with advancements in science and technology, we now have a more comprehensive understanding of these creatures and the age of the Earth. And this story prompts consideration about the coexistence of both religious beliefs and scientific discoveries. It illustrates the ongoing tension between tradition and scientific progress. It demonstrates the need for open-mindedness and the adaptability in our ever-changing world. It's important to remember and recognize that many people do not simply dismiss science and its controversial topics, such as evolution and psychology, but rather incorporate them into their understanding of their religion. For them, religion provides both meaning and a framework for comprehending the world, and it's not always about the literal interpretations, as many view religious texts as simply a guide for living. And again, as an atheist, I've found myself learning the wisdoms and teachings in these various religious stories and books. The Bible and other holy scriptures offer valuable insight that transcends religious beliefs and can resonate with people from all walks of life. Whether it's through meditation, prayer, or abstaining from urges such as fasting, these practices are all meant to draw individuals closer as a community with common sacrifices. They invite us to appreciate the sensations of the world around us, from the simple act of closing our eyes in silent reflection to the power of music and the unity of communal singing. Religions serve as a grounding force for many, reminding us to relearn and appreciate the beauty of our current circumstances, regardless of who or what they attribute it to. This appreciation, in turn, in my opinion, fuels a sense of contentment and optimism about the future. Returning to the concept of suffering and sacrifice, it's noteworthy how common it is to find rules within religions. What's particularly fascinating is that people often discover a sense of honor and duty in following these rules, dissuading them from flaunting their honor or expecting rewards. And it's this very sense of honor and security that allows people to embrace selflessness without seeking external validation. From this point, a perpetual cycle of positive reinforcement emerges, encouraging individuals to continue to do good and find contentment in their lives. Now, continuing along the idea of duty and responsibility, it's also important to realize that this can be taken in its most extreme form, leading to catastrophic consequences. The most extreme version of duty is epitomized by the Nazis. It's a chilling reminder it could have been you or me committing such horrible acts. It's the ultimate dedication and sacrifice for one's country, intended to provide an individual with the highest sense of purpose. The Holocaust stands as a stark reminder of what can transpire when unwavering pride and an excess sense of duty converge. And in contemplating these ideas, the concept of yin and yang, the balance of order and chaos, teaches us that within darkness itself we can find light, and within light we can find darkness. Instead of becoming one-dimensional and blindly serving the cause of order, we must acquaint ourselves with the chaos to be familiar with the uncomfortable situations and context. The wisdom of learning uncomfortable things encourages us to find the equilibrium and harmony, recognizing that extreme duty can lead to grave consequences if not balanced by a broader perspective. As we draw closer together virtually, we gain the opportunity to learn more about the diverse lives people lead and the hardships they all face. And by sharing in these emotions and experiences, we can then partake in the wisdom and knowledge on how to cope with that adversity. And that's where the Jester comes in. The Jester, to me, served as a potent reminder that even in the most challenging and disturbing circumstances, everything in our lives can be reshaped into joy with just a little bit of fun. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And along the lines of suffering, gaming, in a particularly Darkest Dungeon, has a unique charm for veterans like myself. The experience compels us to share our knowledge with newer players, as we find tremendous joy in helping others navigate the pains and frustrations of failure, realizing that this pain is something everyone has felt at one point. It's fascinating to understand why the game itself is a celebration of our common suffering, almost kind of like the community within religious beliefs. Because when we come across a new Reddit post detailing a newbie's first encounter with formidable foes like the Shambler, or an ordained elite collector that ends up taking an hour and a half of our time to fight, but it's nonetheless just a funny story to share and tell. The ability to find humor and camaraderie in these shared trials is a testament to the magic of certain video games with a dedicated and passionate fan base. And I found myself a uniquely challenging time to create tier lists for Darkest Dungeon 2. Even though it could potentially help others and even garner a decent amount of views, it took some introspection, however, for me to understand why I resisted this seemingly useful endeavor. And the answer I arrived at was related to creativity. We should indeed establish norms to aid those who are genuinely struggling to progress. At the same time, we should encourage seasoned players to try out strategies that simply seem fun. When they become more knowledgeable in the game, their unique experiences might lead to innovative ideas or solutions for common challenges. In the realm of creativity, Jester once again comes into mind, as comedians often push boundaries by breaking social norms to craft their jokes. In order to achieve this, they must think of things we typically consider as incorrect. Creativity genuinely thrives when individuals are willing to bend or even break the conventional social rules. Contemplating the role of jesters throughout history, it's intriguing to realize that they were actually often disfigured individuals, easier to make fun of, yet they enjoyed the privilege of the close relationships they had with kings and nobles. On the contrary to the common perception of jesters as foolish and silly, these individuals were in fact remarkable philosophers. Despite their own personal struggles and the real danger of royal whims, many served as spokesperson for the monarchs during difficult times. A brief study of history reveals that it's often the hardships and struggles that lead to rebellions and tragically the downfall of monarchs. In this context, jesters became tools used by kings to uplift and entertain their people during trying times. They played a pivotal role in maintaining the morale and balance of a community. Turning to a more somber chapter in the history, the Holocaust, I discovered a remarkable aspect of resilience within the Jewish community. In the face of unspeakable suffering, many Jews have actually used humor as a coping mechanism. They often shared dark jokes about the Holocaust. One of the most famous jokes were about two men meeting in heaven after the Holocaust. They share their recollections of their time on Earth, and during their conversation, one man reveals that while they were lining up for the gas chamber, he accidentally slipped and hit his head on a rock. The other man laughs and says, "That was God's grace for you." And at that moment, God himself shows up and says, "I don't remember that." The man responds with a smile, "Of course, how could you? You weren't there." We often strive to emulate the hardships of our ancestors' lives, believing that they define our existence, but we must not forget that it is through really the play and enjoyment of our lives where we truly, live. And I tried to test my own limits as well, genuinely imagining if I passed away what I would think. And I realized the last thing I'd wish for is to not leave with others of memories of suffering and pain. Rather, I'd want them to forget about the trials and tribulations and embrace the beauty of life, to savor every moment. It's a common trait of the human mind to seek understanding and order amidst the chaos, to find balance in the yin and yang of existence. Suffering itself is such an integral part of our lives, and it's not something to be feared. Only through embracement of it can we find purpose, joy, and appreciation for every other aspects of our existence. And this is the philosophy I've gained from the dark depths of Darkest Dungeon 2, the ability to find light even in the darkest corners, and the power of laughter to heal and uplift others. The phenomenon of suffering is an intrinsic part of life. Rather than fearing it, we should wholeheartedly embrace it, for within it we can find purpose, joy, and a profound appreciation for every aspect of existence. Let us find the inspiration in Leper and the Jester, and the lessons of history to embrace these challenges, to celebrate the victories, and to continue our quest of wisdom and understanding in this ever-evolving game of life.